Greetings and welcome to the Rocker Dog Podcast, the only podcast that talks to musicians about their canine companions. I'm your host, Tim Dill, along with my golden doodle, Charlie, who I provide the emotional support to. And this week, we welcome to the show Mark Holcomb and Jake Bowen, the guitar duo behind the progressive metal band Periphery, who just released their new album, Periphery V, Djent is Not a Genre, on March 10th. And these are their Rocker Dogs.
My name is Jake Bowen. I play guitar in Periphery, and this is my buddy Tycho. Hi,
Tycho.
Yeah, he's like.
Well, right off the bat, before I forget, I'm so glad you didn't name him after David Bowie or a David Bowie song.
Yeah, because he's got the.
He's got the eyes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Heterochromia, I think it's called, and it's on the right sides too. So he's definitely my little Bowie dog. But no, I named him after a ancient astronomer.
Okay. I might have to ask about that. I'm not as informed. Mark, how about you? Who do you have for us today?
She's not here right now. She's currently in the backyard barking at the neighbors over the fence. But my dog. So I'm Mark Holcomb from Periphery. I play guitar in the band as well. And my dog is Elvira, a 1.5-year-old black Chihuahua. She looks like a bat. She's tiny. She's awesome. Yeah.
Thus the name? Is that the inspiration for the name?
That was actually her name at the rescue before we adopted her. And we thought the name was perfect. Like we saw a picture, we're like, that's an ideal name for a dog that looks like that, you know? Okay. And like I would imagine 90% of dog owners who adopt a dog change the name to something that's more fitting to their taste.
Right.
But not us. It was just a perfect name from the jump.
Okay. It's funny. I like that. And I do see that all the time, that people change the name of the dog. And I just feel like you're kind of setting it back a few weeks at least to get it to learn a new name. But yeah, it's funny. I see that you call her Elvira Goth Princess. Is that the full name?
It's always a running joke. Like, you know, we'll put pictures of her on social media and have like typo negative or like, you know, The Cure or some like really sad, drab music because she just looks gothed out, you know, just right. All black, goth dog, little black metal dog.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's get a little bit into the context of how these dogs came into your life. Jake, how did, I believe Tycho you got in, according to social media, maybe late 2014?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
What was surrounding that you decided to get a dog?
So I was seeing somebody who had a dog when I entered the relationship, and I saw like their connection that they had, and I thought it was like the coolest thing I've ever like seen, because they were so close, and I was like, I want that, you know, and you know, that dog is a great dog, but that was her dog, so I wanted like my dog. And I wanted something like with a lot of energy, something that would like get me outside. So I had my heart set on getting a Jack Russell Terrier. And then I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and I was just walking down the street one day, and a person with an Alaskan Klee Kai, which is Tycho's breed, walked past me, and I didn't even know what breed it was at that point. It was completely a new thing, and it just looked like a mini husky. And I'm like, that's what I want. And eventually I saw that same person again, and I approached them and asked them where, you know, about the breed and where they got it. And within a few weeks, I applied and I got Tycho. And, you know, I picked him up at the Baltimore airport because I was in between Maryland and Brooklyn, and the rest is history. Yeah, it was just it was more of like to have that bond that you can have with a dog, and also to kind of like get me outside and stop being so sedentary and stuck inside.
Now, was the assumed breakup you had back then, was it extra traumatic that you were no longer with the dog also?
Yeah, that was one of the hardest parts. And Tycho and Bruno was the other dog's name. He was a beagle, and Tycho and Bruno like loved each other. So I had to take them. I had to take him away from Bruno, and that made me really sad. But anyways, he's a very resilient dog, and you know, within weeks he was back to his old self.
Okay, interesting. How about you, Mark? What was surrounding, you know, your dog's a lot newer to you, I think 1.5 years ago?
Yeah. We adopted her in September 2021. Yeah, I mean, my wife and I, we've wanted a dog for the majority of our relationship. And my wife and I have been dating since 2000. So like we got married 8 years ago, and we've been dating for 23 years, I guess, at this point. But we'd wanted a dog most of that time, but we're such sort of nomads, and
Right.
we travel so much. And obviously my job and my lifestyle, and she's from Spain, so she's always back and forth. It just didn't make a lot of sense for us to get a dog, at least it felt like, for so many moments in our relationship. Seeing Jake adopt Tycho a long time ago, that gave me a sort of taste, because I got very attached to Tycho when I lived close to Jake. My wife would watch him too, and we just became very attached. And for years after that, we were like, we should just pull the trigger. We should do it. We should make our lifestyle work around the dog. And it always petrified me, the idea of being a poor dog owner, not being an adequate caregiver for a dog,
Mm-hmm.
And finally, we just decided to make the jump. We had an activity with the band. There was no touring because of COVID during 2021. And my wife saw a picture of her up for adoption on this rescue company that's called Chihuahua. It's their Instagram page. She saw an advertisement for adoption, and we went to go meet her. And it was literally like love at first sight. We both just melted, and we signed up immediately. The organization actually got back to us later that day, or like a couple of days later, and they were like, we could tell there was a connection. So between you and I, we've scooted you to the top of the list to get her. And
That's nice.
Yeah, and I remember like my wife telling me while I was in the shower, and like me getting teary in the shower, like hearing it. We were just so ready to do it. And frankly, it's one of the most amazing things and long overdue things that's happened in both of our lives. It's a shame it took so long, but it's just, life is beautiful right now.
Yeah. Well, I get so much of my information through Instagram and just the photos. In digging into your Instagram, I went way back. You and your wife had a collage. I guess the Instagram post is from your 5th anniversary, and there was a collage, I'm assuming from like high school. And in that collage has pictures of you and her, but it also had a bunch of dogs. So to your point, I was like, I bet you they've been wanting a dog, or they've, had been dog lovers their whole life, just maybe just not had a dog.
Yeah. We're like the creepy uncle and aunts who never have kids, but who love the nieces and nephews. We're like that, except with dogs. We've been pining over dog ownership for a long time, and seeing all of our close friends, like I said, Jake, and just seeing the connection. Our drummer, Matt, too, he's a big dog person, seeing how they sort of have their lives based around this amazing, beautiful connection with an animal is something that we always wanted a piece of, and we made it happen,
So Mark, I can assume that since you're married, your wife can see the dog, when you're out doing band stuff on tour, et cetera, et cetera. Jake, how about you? Who do you trust with Tycho?
Well, I do trust Mark and Vanessa, Mark's wife. They, if I needed them to watch Tycho, I know they would for me. But the de facto Tycho caregiver is my mom. So I always bring Tycho to her place whenever I go anywhere. And when I first was thinking about getting Tycho, I had to have like some conversations with people about like what it would mean and what I'd be asking of them. So,
Right.
I took my mom out to dinner. I'm like, all right, I want to talk to you about something, and I can't do it unless you say that you're able to do this for me. So, I put the pressure on. And, I was like, I want to get a dog, but when I go on tour, I need somebody to watch the dog. And I was wondering if you would be open to that. And since she said yes, I was able to get Tycho. And I had to also have kind of the same conversation with my roommate at the time. He said yes. So basically, like, there were like two people that, kind of stood in the way of if they didn't want to watch Tycho, I wouldn't be able to have him. So,
Right.
but to answer your question, my mom is the one who watches him whenever I do anything. And it's funny because she'll be like, she won't be really interested in like what I'm doing, like career wise. She's just like, when are you going on tour again? Like, when are you leaving? I want the dog,
Nice. That was going to be my next question. Does she take him in lovingly, or take him in like, okay,
Yeah, she loves him more than I do. And like, she loves him more than she loves me. Like, the two of them are just like, I don't know. It's like a once in a lifetime sort of dog for her. And I'm totally okay with that because that's who you want watching your dog when you're away. I don't worry when they're together.
Well, to make you feel better, you guys are a rarity in that, again, back to Instagram, so many artists that I speak to, I get to say, are you ever frustrated that your dog posts get so much more likes than your band posts? But that's the opposite for you guys. So I was just going to say, your fans are much more into you guys than your pets, which you can always take solace in that if you're not getting your mother's love.
I think it's our guitars. I think that's what it is. It's not so much us that are fans, it's our guitars. It's our
the guitars trump the dogs.
Exactly.
Everything. I can post like, this composition that I worked on like tirelessly. I could, post a really beautiful picture of something somewhere. And then the moment I post a guitar, that's it. It's like the whole thing shuts down. It's crazy.
Now, I get the gist that neither one of you grew up with dogs. You guys don't have any family history with dogs as children?
I did actually. We had a family dog when I was a kid. I wasn't he was more like my mom and dad's dog. I was kind of too young to remember. His name was Boots. I don't really remember a lot about him, but then there was a long gap until I was a teenager. We adopted another dog, another Chihuahua called Peanut, who lived for 12 years. And she passed away while I was out, sort of as a late 20 something, already out of the house at that point. And then there's that long gap, which, I just spent obsessing over having a dog with my wife. And, we never pulled the trigger because of the concern about our lifestyles,
Yeah.
But yes and no. I mean, there was some experience growing up, but I would say, for the most part, a lot of it was just spent wishing or wondering, what if we did this one day?
Yeah. Having a Chihuahua growing up, were you guys seeking a Chihuahua when it came time to make a decision? Or how did you? Okay.
Definitely. We love small dogs. There's just something about small animals to me that, like, I don't know if it's their size, their attitude, their stature, all of those things that, I don't know, they just kind of melt my heart. And I love all dogs. I'm not discriminating dog person. I love all dogs. I really do. But as far as, and maybe this had to do with me growing up in apartments for most of my childhood, is that the idea of having a big dog never seemed realistic because my space was so limited.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, we have a house now and we have the smallest dog I've ever owned, but it's kind of like she gets to live in her little palace. But we've always been small dog people for some reason. Yeah. But maybe for all of those reasons I just mentioned.
Okay. And Jake, I know I used to live in New York. I know you said Brooklyn.
I'm in New Jersey actually now, but
okay.
But I grew up in Rockland County, New York. I grew up in Ulster County, New York. I moved around a lot.
Okay. You were in Brooklyn when you first saw that breed of dog. Okay.
Yeah, I was seeing somebody in Brooklyn, so I was in between Maryland and Brooklyn a lot.
Okay. I was just going to make a comment of space because I know all too well there's no space in New York, Brooklyn, and all the boroughs.
If there is, it's a premium. You pay a premium for it.
Now, have you guys ever had any issues with the dogs, health-wise or behavioral issues? And I guess one of the reasons I bring it up is, Jake, you had a post that had foods that are dangerous for dogs. And it's something I just recently dealt with because my dog's a very picky eater, so I usually top off his food with whatever we've recently eaten. And I gave him something, it was ground chicken, and I saw it had bell peppers in it, which I Googled, bell peppers were fine. Gave him a little bit, everything was fine. I did it later again that night and I discovered it had onions. And onions is a big no-no. So luckily we didn't have, it was too little to make a difference, but it made me think, have you guys had any episodes health-wise or behavioral-wise?
I haven't. I feel like I've gotten really lucky with Tycho. I mean, the one thing he did do was crack one of his back teeth by chewing on those antlers that they sell at pet stores. They're really hard on dogs' teeth. I know once that happened, I took him, I threw them all out, and I had to get the tooth removed, and seeing him like that was heartbreaking. I'm kind of a helicopter parent with Tycho. My mom always is like, you need to lighten up, just let him be a dog. And I'm like, no, I want him to be the perfect dog. So I'm always training him. He knows, he understands a lot of the things that I say, and we have a really good rapport that way. I'm very strict about what I feed him, like his diet and stuff. And actually, you can't really see it, but that post that I made that you mentioned, that is on my fridge there, just in case I have people over, or, somebody doesn't know and they want to like give Tycho a treat,
Right.
that they don't give them any of the things that are on that list. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, like grapes are bad, onions are bad,
Yeah.
avocados bad. People give them like pieces of like burger and stuff like that, which have a lot of salt in it. And it's just like, you gotta be really careful. They do like people food, but they're very sensitive little creatures when, it comes to that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of annoyingly strict about it. It drives my mom nuts because she always wants to spoil them. So
Right. Mark, how about you? Any issues so far with your dog?
There's been a couple things actually, two of which were really scary. I mean, she has a very sensitive tummy. Elvie does, and that's like what Jake was saying. We have to be very helicopter parentsy with her, because she will get into anything and everything, and it sucks because the moment something small enters her system, it's just like, yeah, it's like World War III in her stomach.
Right.
But she got spayed at 6 months, 7 months, and the doctor like said that her heart stopped or they couldn't detect a heartbeat for like 2 seconds.
Wow.
And while he said that it wasn't the end of the world, that he did want to let us know that happened. He wasn't sure if it was faulty equipment, but her heart wasn't detected by their equipment for just short of 2 seconds, and that scared the daylights out of us. We don't know if it's her sort of having a sensitivity to anesthesia. Again, it remains to be seen whether or not we want to apply anesthesia to her for any like dental work or anything in the future, but that scares us a bit. And then we got her a distemper vaccine about 5 months ago, and she had a horrible reaction to that. She gets the vaccine done. We're driving home, and then she just pukes all over my wife's lap. And then we just speed right back to the vet, and they give her like anti-nausea medicine. And they're like, okay, they monitor her for a half an hour, and they say, okay, you guys can go home. As we're almost home, my wife says that she starts to see like, what do you call hives on her ears and face, and her eyes are swelling up. It just looks heartbreaking.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then so we head back to the vet. We're doing like 98 miles an hour on the highway, and they hook her up to fluids all day. They give her a steroid, and they legitimately don't know what caused it, other than that she just has a sensitivity to that particular vaccine, the distemper vaccine. So again, it's just there was no way of us knowing.
Yeah.
And I don't think our hearts were prepared for that, and it was just very scary, particularly for such a young dog who we all just kind of take sort of puppy's health for granted, and we think they're these invincible little things, and to have two instances like that in such a short amount of time was pretty jarring, and it just wasn't pleasant.
It's just tough because they can't really communicate with you. I've got two kids, so at least when they're a little bit older, they can tell you what's wrong, or you can kind of see their physical signs a little bit better than a dog's. But yeah, scary indeed. You both mentioned, well, I guess Jake, you were mentioning about training. Have you guys? Are you training them yourselves? Are you taking classes or putting them in any classes? Like, how are you going about raising these dogs as good standing individuals?
I trained Tycho myself. It was kind of something that I wanted to do so I could have the experience of doing it. I read a bunch of books, and I debated against like treat based training versus just verbal commands or audible commands. I did kind of like a mix of both. Tycho is one of the most agreeable dogs. I think Mark can attest to this. He just like listens to you. Like, and he's like, he doesn't like ignore you. If you start talking to him, he'll pay attention and wait until you're done. Like, I just got really, really lucky, and it made him really easy to train. So if I needed to train him to do anything, like literally anything, it'd probably take like maybe, a couple hours to actually get him to repeat the motion, and then maybe a week to get him to where it's just like he'll remember it forever. So because of that kind of personality that he has, I never thought he really needed like obedience training, or he's just, I don't know, it's just kind of, I think it's just within him genetically.
Yeah.
Just very, very an easy dog to just live with and to train, and he's incredibly smart. Very lucky.
Yeah. He's beautiful too. Mark,
Thank
how
you.
about you and your wife? Are you guys, how you going about keeping Elvira in line?
Yeah, we did the same as Jake, actually. We just decided to train her ourselves, and we kind of did a similar approach. A lot of it is treat based. At least this is when she was a puppy. A lot of it was treat based, and a lot of verbal praise. Like the potty training wasn't very difficult, actually. And I know small dogs have a reputation for being stubborn or having this like rebellious attitude, but going along with what Jake was saying, like Tycho's not like, I remember seeing Tycho when he was a puppy. He was like an old man, like he was very patient, like he had a lot of energy, but I don't know, just had this very calm, composed, like attentive attitude. I gotta say, we got lucky with Elvie because she's always been like that since she was a puppy. Very smart, very attentive. And yeah, she's a small dog. She's a Chihuahua, like she's gonna have her stubborn streak. But we never had to worry about her doing, like you just read these nightmare stories on the internet or in books of just like, dogs chewing up half the sofa or something like that,
Yeah.
or like climbing the dinner table while you're not home. But we never had to worry about that. And she's been great. She does this thing where like we'll be in a room with her and I'll say, Elvie, where's mommy? And she'll look at my wife, and my wife will say, hey, Elvie, where's daddy? And she'll look at me, and she's learning to do this with like our whole family, like my in-laws and everything. And it's awesome. Like
Yeah, that's
maybe
funny.
as like not the most seasoned dog owner, I didn't know that was a thing. So it's like, because I haven't owned many dogs in my life, it's I'm learning new things too, and that's exciting.
Now, do either one of you see getting a companion dog for your dogs? Two dogs in the home?
Yeah, that's actually my really my next big move
Mm.
in life is to just get either another Klee Kai or get a husky puppy.
Mm.
Um, and it is pretty. Tycho is 8, and I feel so guilty that he just seems kind of bored sometimes. So I walk
Mhm.
him like pretty much, there's like 3 or 4 walks a day, and one of them at least has to be like 1 or 2 miles at least. I usually do more than that, but I can just see how bored he is, and I really need to get another dog. I mean, I live in like an all right sized place. This is like one floor of a couple, but it's not like a good place for dogs to run around.
Right.
And so getting a house with a yard is also part of that process. Like once I can do that, then it's going to be a dog sanctuary. I'm very excited about getting companions for Tycho because he loves other dogs and he loves playing, and he's just like, I can just see that he's like kind of bored and just a little bummed out. So it definitely has to happen.
Would you
Right.
get a puppy, Jake? Like a young dog?
Yeah, I want to do the puppy thing again. I feel like because I've had dogs my whole life just because my mom has had them, and we've gotten rescues and all sorts. And I found that the most enjoyable experience for me was raising Tycho from just being a baby. And I just feel like there's a lot of room there to grow. They're kind of like a blank canvas. You're not like undoing people's bad parenting and then applying your
Hmm.
method. You're
Right.
just applying your method, and I feel like I want to skip this step of rehabilitating dogs because I've done that my whole life.
Right. It sounded like you were open to getting more than two someday if the
Yeah,
situation's right.
I'd like to. If I get a big enough house, then yeah, I'd have more than 2 dogs. That'd be fun.
Mark, how about you?
At some point, yeah. I don't think anytime soon, but maybe when she gets a little bit older. Like I said, she's only a year and a half, so she has a lot of energy, and frankly, I think she likes being the sort of princess of the house.
Right.
It's funny whenever there's other dogs around, like her attitude changes just a little bit. Like she loves playing and all that, but as far as her position regarding our attention to her, that
Right.
changes. Like she gets jealous is a strong word, but just like she yearns for our attention a little bit more when there's another dog sucking up that space. Uh, but At some point, it would be fun. And same thing with what Jake was saying is like, there are days where she kind of just lays around because my wife and I are busy doing work stuff or we got other things to tend to in our lives. And we do think to ourselves is like, oh man, it'd be cool one day if we can just like let them play all day and then sleep it off. And then it does sound like a really wonderful life. One day, I'm definitely not leaning towards doing it anytime soon, but yeah, that does seem like a good life. And who knows, maybe more than two. I'm not closing that door either. Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, I wrap up each show with what I call the Zoomies, and that's just 5 quick questions. So I'll ask each of you the same question. The first question, some people find repulsive, some people are okay with it, but is, do you kiss your dogs on the mouth?
I kiss him on his snout. I never kiss him on his mouth, but I kiss him on his snout and he hates it. Like he's like, no, I don't want that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's a point of contention in our house. I don't do it like actively. I don't like go looking to do it, but sometimes she'll get me because I have her up near my face a lot. She'll get me and I don't freak out. My wife is like, oh my gosh, you got to watch your face. I'm like, okay, fine. But I don't mind it when she accidentally gets me there. I don't. I do wash up, but it's mostly at the behest of my wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question 2, if your dog could have a theme song, what would it be? Think either a theme song or like a walk-up song if we were going to use a baseball analogy.
Or a WWE wrestler. I like to think of it.
Yeah.
In that yeah. Oh man. Yeah, probably like a Jake, what's a super slow, grindy typo negative song? Like what's the most depressing typo song that you know?
Damn. Maybe was it called Wolf Moon?
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That one.
That,
Wolf Moon by Tycho.
It's got Wolf in the title and it's got the like sludgy riff.
Yeah.
A nice contrast to the small stature of the dog, I presume.
Right.
Yeah.
Mine would probably be like like a Nintendo song from like a Mario Brothers game, because he's so like bubbly and he like kind of bounces on the tips of his toes and floats and everything. So he's kind of like a little video game character.
Okay, I can see that. That's funny. Question 3, if they were to join your profession and join the music industry, would they be more a fan, a critic, a roadie, or a groupie?
Oh man, you'd probably be the manager.
Good. I was going to say, or fill in the blank.
Yeah. Maybe like a really angry fan, like one of those fans on the internet who complain about everything. She's very vocal. She's not shy about letting you know when she wants something. So maybe she'd be the fan who's like day one of your new song release is just like, oh, the guitars are too low in the mix, or like, you know.
I can only imagine the interaction you guys have with your fans. Now that you bring it up, it's just something that someone like me never thinks too deep about, but it's funny that you bring that up.
We're very lucky. We have the best fans in the world, but they definitely have a tendency, because they're so into the band, to like pick everything we do apart. We're lucky, but there's also that.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the guitars, and I know that, I don't know if this is a dirty word in your word, but like the progressiveness of the band, I think it lends itself to that audience that likes to dissect and get into the weeds. So
yeah, they're total nerds like we are. Our music attracts people who are just like us, and that's why it is the way it is.
And I don't hold them to over the flame for this, because I grew up kind of that way too. Like every time when I was a kid, dude, when I was 13, 14, Metallica put out a record, I would be that annoying kid and be like, oh, why are they doing no solos again? And their Dream Theater record came out. And Devin Townsend and Opeth records. I would be the annoying mouth breather nerd kid who no one wanted to hang out with, complaining about my favorite band. So I don't really hold them accountable for it.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, yeah, they're engaged. They're engaged fans. Yeah. Question 4 is: do you guys use a dog voice in speaking to your pups?
Oh yeah.
I
mean, it's more than that too. It's like I have endless jingles and full-on songs with lyrics to him. He's got his voice that I do for him, and he hates it. Like he just kind of gives me that side eye at this point. Like when he was a puppy, he loved it because he just it comes off as affection. But now that he's older, he's like, stop embarrassing me, Dad.
It's like, I wouldn't sound like that.
Yeah, that's not what I sound like.
No one wants to hear my dog in my baby voice. It's the lamest. Like it will render anybody who hears it impotent. It's bad. Yeah, it's very baby like, but I love it. It's how I speak to my dog all the time. Yeah, it's really lame.
Okay. I appreciate you do speak to your dog that way. I think most of us do, just a lot of us don't admit it. Last question. Is there a charity or dog organization that we can throw out there, just give attention to, that you guys have just want to make an audience aware of?
It's not like a charity or anything, but it is the rescue organization that we picked up Elvie from. They're based here in Austin. They're called Chihuahua, and they were absolutely like perfect in helping us through the process. And honestly, one of the easiest experiences compared to such a heavy life event like acquiring a dog. And it was just an amazing experience. But yeah, their information is iChihuahua Rescue. It's chihuahuarescue.org, and they're based here in Austin, but I believe they work with anybody in Texas and maybe all over the country. I'm not sure, but yeah, wonderful organization, wonderful people.
Great. Love the name. Such a funny name.
Yeah, same.
I couldn't think of a charity. There's so many of them, and Tycho doesn't come from a rescue, but I did think of like maybe offering a piece of advice to people who watch or listen to your podcast. Like walk your dog, like walk them a lot and far and get them out of the house. Cause like, I think a lot of people don't appreciate how much time your dog is spending inside, and it's like it's prison. And it's, they're happy to be there because they're dogs and they're beautiful creatures. But I always feel this like overwhelming sense of guilt when I've been out all day and I'm like, I got to get home. Tycho needs to go outside. He needs to experience the world. So walk them. The best part about walking a dog, I know it seems like really obvious, but they become better people when you walk them, because they're experiencing the world in real time. They get to interact with the world, and they get to stimulate all the things that make them a dog, at the highest level. And I just think that people don't walk their dogs enough. So that's what I wanted to say, and to replace a charity or sort of like anything like that.
Sure.
People
That's
do
great.
need to hear that. Yeah, agreed. So hard. There's people who live, no finger pointing. I don't want to like dox anybody, but there are people here who live around me who have a couple dogs, big dogs, and I've never seen them on the street ever.
Yeah.
Living here for
and you
years
notice
now.
that stuff too, because they'll be out once in a while and you're like, that person never walks their dog.
Yeah.
It's really good for everyone involved. I mean, it's good for it's good for us humans too.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Jake, you've got a tattoo of your dog.
Yeah.
Mark, any plans?
Yeah, definitely needs to happen probably soon. We'll probably get something really lame, like some kind of matching tattoo thing with my wife and I, but yeah, TBD. But yeah, it needs to happen. We're way too unhealthily obsessed with our little Chihuahua to not do it. So likely at some point.
Excellent. We'll keep an eye out for that. Anything you guys want to promote while you got a hot mic in front of you?
Yeah. But we have a new album coming out March 10th called Periphery V. Djent is not a genre. Don't worry about that second part. It's just Periphery V to normal people. And we're really proud of it. We worked on it really, really hard so we could give our dogs better lives.
Well said. The motivating factor.
Yeah.
Well said.
And you're going on the road too, I believe. I think this is already news that's out there on your socials, but spring tour.
Just on tour. Yeah. We're going out with Underoath and Loathe. This will be our first time back on the road in 3.5 years, maybe. Yeah, it's long overdue. It's something I think we're all really looking forward to.
Great. Very good. Well, best of luck with the album and the tour. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your dogs with me. It's always a pleasure of mine to hear good things about our canine companions.
Yeah, I mean, when we got the offer to do the podcast, I immediately jumped at it because I'm like, no, this is what I want to talk about. Like, who cares about guitars and pedals and music? I want to talk about Tycho. That's my pride and joy.
Yeah, I gotta sandwich these in. If you're on a press junket, I'll sandwich it right in the middle to give you guys a little bit of break of talking shop. So
please, yeah. This was great. Yeah, and like Jake, I also jumped at the opportunity quickly. It was like the fastest reply I've ever done. It's like, yes, an opportunity for me to talk about my dog. Awesome.
Great to hear. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and again, best of luck in the future, and keep coming to social and posting your dogs. And I know your dogs each have their own sites, also their own pages.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
So
Tycho is a dog.
At Elvira Goth Princess, follow her. Don't even follow me. In fact, if you follow both of us already, unfollow me and just go follow her.
Yeah, same.
Okay, guys, thanks very much.
Cool, thanks. I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Thanks,
bye now.
Bye.
All right, that was fun. How great are those guys? Thank you both Jake Bowen and Mark Holcomb of the band Periphery, whose new album Periphery V, Djent is Not a Genre, is out now and available wherever you buy or stream your music. The dog organization Mark is calling attention to is Chihuahua, whose mission is to rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome Chihuahuas in Central Texas. They are solely funded by adoption fees, merchandise sales, and through generous donations from Chihuahua and animal lovers just like you. To learn more or make a donation, visit iChihuahuarescue.org. And Jake urged everyone to get out and walk your dog every day. It's good for the dog, it's good for you, everyone benefits, and I couldn't agree more. A big thanks to all you out there listening and supporting the show. We're always happy to hear from you, so drop us a note at Instagram at RockerDogPodcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode like the one we have coming up next week with an artist from the Great White North whose challenging first year with an energetic dog put her and her partner into counseling. So join us for that. All right, I'm going to take Jake's advice and take my dog out for a long walk. See you next week, everybody.